Discussion Fridays podcast. Today we'll be talking about the Law of One. I've mentioned the Law of One in another podcast, and I strongly suggest that you go and do some reading on this, because I'm not going to go in great length into the Law of One right now, but it's certainly something that you have to look and read on your own anyway. This work is kind of long. Also, that's another thing here. And I really think you must read it for yourself to understand it from your own perspective. It's kind of heavy reading if you want. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you some info to kind of make you aware that the law of one actually exists and it's there. So what's the Law of One, really? The Law of One is a book or a series of books that's been channeled by LL Research. The people that were the channelers were Carla Ruckert, Don Elkins, and Jim McCarty. That happened between 1981 and 1984. What is this channeling thing? Well, the practice of channeling has been around for millennia. And in short, it's a person's body that is being taken by a spirit for the purpose of communication. So the channeling in the Law of One was done by the three people that I just mentioned earlier. But it looked like the contact with the person that was more comfortable was Carla. And it was like a relationship, if you want, between Carla and Ra. Everything that a question was answered, let's say if there was a question that was asked, then the answer every time, the spirit, if you want, that was answering, was always starting with "I am Ra." And if you're thinking about the Egyptian god Ra, the Egyptian god, you're right. So the Law of One, as just a little thing here, is that the Law of One has never given info that may have proved false in time. On the contrary, some information that was found in the Law of One, and which seemed completely crazy in the 80s, in the lights of the scientific understanding of the time, proved accurate years after its release. And that is thanks to the discoveries of quantum physics. So the LL Research book can be freely downloaded if you want to from their library. You can also buy the book online. It includes all the questions and answers from the original books, as well as about 60 other questions and answers that were discovered by the Relisting Project a little bit later. So now the LL Research has now published a new version that was based on the Relisting Project. Now, in the books of the Law of One, you will find different concepts. For example, they're talking about the one infinite creator. This is what some would call God, others would call the infinite consciousness. But I summarize it as the origin, where everything started. You also come across the concept of illusion. They explain that we are in a world that is an illusion carefully engineered in order to give the creator the opportunity to know itself. And that is happening through every single one of us. Another concept is the concept of the densities. And this is how Ra explains the densities. So I quote here. The creation has 7 levels or densities. The 8th density forming the first density of the next octave of experience, just as the 8th note of a musical scale begins a new octave. Between 7th and 8th density, the creation remerge in a period of timeless, formless unity with the Creator. It is Ra's understanding that, and I quote again, the ways of the octave are without time. It is, there is 7 densities in each creation infinitely. And a bit later, during this channeling, Ra points out that their limits of the knowledge are quite narrow. So even though this Ra figure would be considered a god here, he considers still himself with a narrow knowledge of all this creator thing. By this understanding, we humans of Earth at this time, we are in 3rd density. It is the density of the self-awareness and the first density of consciousness of the spirit. It is the, I quote, axis upon which the creation turns, because in it the entities choose the way, either service to others or service to self, in which they will further their evolution towards the creator. So 3rd density is also shorter than the other densities. They're talking about only 75,000 years. I know it sounds a lot, but looks like it's the shortest one. So this concept to me is very interesting. The concept of service to others and service to self. Now, to explain the difference between the two and what it means and all that, and to explain it properly, I really have to rely on some of the questions, answers that are in the Law of One. So, for example, on the service to others, so if you look into it, it's going to be at 15.7. The questioner is asking, what is the greatest service that our population on this planet could perform individually? So the answer to this, Ra, I am Ra. There is but one service. The law is one. The offering of self to Creator is the greatest service, the unity, the fountainhead. The entity who seeks the one Creator is with infinite intelligence. From this seeking, from this offering, a great multiplicity of opportunities will evolve depending upon the mind-body-spirit complex. Distortions with regard to the various illusionary aspect of energy centers of the various complex of your illusion. Thus, some become healers, some workers, some teachers, and so forth. As you probably can notice, because I just read this one, it's kind of a heavy thing anyway for a English second language guy like me. It's kind of a heavy reading. So the way I really understood this was that as you are really helping others in any field, you are in service to others, and this is good. So I think the proper word in English would be selfless, having little or no concern for oneself, as the definition goes, especially with regard to fame, position, money, etc. Unselfish. Basically, that's it. And throughout the Law of One, they talk about the mind-body-spirit complex. That is actually humans. That's because it looks like it's the better way for them to explain what humans are. Now, on the service to self, I quote again the Law of One here, and this has happened at 19.17 in the Law of One. The questioner was asking, can you tell me what bias creates their momentum towards the chosen path of service to self? Ra, I am Ra. We can speak only in metaphor. Some love the light, some love the darkness. It is a matter of the unique and infinitely various Creator choosing and playing among its experiences as a child upon a picnic. Some enjoy the picnic and find the sun beautiful, the food delicious, the games refreshing, and aglow with the joy of creation. Some find the night delicious, their picnic being pain, difficulty, suffering of others, and the examination of the perversities of nature. These enjoy a different picnic. All these experiences are available. It is free will of each entity which chooses the form of play, the form of pleasure. Another heavy one. What I understood here was that the service to self was certainly more selfish and destructive. I also understood that it was a deliberate choice to suffer and or enjoy the suffering of others. So as you can see, this is a certainly deep reading, and in my opinion, something that is worth researching. When I mention the Law of One, I usually come across different reactions. It leaves really nobody who reads it indifferent. Many saying that it is all fake and it's the work of the devil. Others that they just say that there's no proof of anything, and it is more of a fairy tale than channeling. I also get the it's just someone saying stuff to pretend or to get people to do this and this and that. Honestly, it can be any of that, really, and then some. Sorry. But if you really read the Law of One and try to understand the message, even if you take it at face value and just go with what is written, it is still a very positive message with powerful inspirations. And to be honest with you, I really think that people that see anything being negative in the Law of One are having definitely personal issues that should be looked into. As stated before, I strongly suggest you go and read it. Read The Law of One. See for yourself what's in there. Even though it's a heavy reading, take your time. Just do it a little bit at a time. It's not a book or something like you can read from cover to cover. Just take your time. Do one at a time. And anyway, so that's pretty much it. It's a shorter one this time. So I will leave you with a word from Ra. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and the light of the infinite creator. We communicate now. Hopefully you will. Take care, guys. Much love and see you later.